So welcome today to our annual meeting and presentation on changing human behavior to advance the 3Rs. My name's Megan. I'm Executive Director here at the 3RC. And so I kind of, again, I'm hoping to make this a little interactive, hoping that, you guys can all really engage in the presentation today. I want you to type in the chat if you've ever struggled to convince other people to make some 3Rs related changes. You can feel free to just type yes. You don't have to give details, but if this has ever been an issue, kind of this convincing other people part. Yeah, every day someone says this is very normal. Often, yeah, just convincing other people can sometimes be the hardest part. I hear people saying all the time. Yeah, what about personally? Have you also, I'm curious, again, saying that yes, if you personally have struggled to make some 3Rs changes. And so the 3Rs, refinement, reduction, and replacement, improving animal lives, reducing their numbers by improving experimental design, replacing them with alternative technologies, that sometimes it can hard to, change our own perspective or change our own behaviors. So yeah, awesome. Or, how many of you guys have been maybe successful, but it was really challenging to make a change? Maybe it was hard to figure out, what was really happening, or, convince people. It was really exhausting. Yeah, seeing people saying, yes, there's costs. Some people don't like change. Yeah, lots of things. So this is all, yeah, 4 years to get through one change. Yes, it takes a lot of time. I want to normalize this. I don't want to fool you guys that, through this presentation that you're just going to be able to make changes like this, but hopefully I can, make it a little bit easier. Yeah, sustaining changes, people wanting others to go first. So as we go through today, I really recommend that as we talk about behavior change, that you think about one really specific 3Rs change that either you personally want to make or you want to make at your institution, so that you can be thinking about really specific actionable ways that today's presentation applies. And I want to have the message that it is possible. It's challenging, but it's very possible to make 3Rs related change. So today we're going to go over the theory behind human behavior change, talk a little bit about what it looks like practice, and then talk about both resources as well as kind of integrated into that the 3RC annual report. But first, I'm actually going to give you a little introduction to myself as well as, again, the annual report. So like I said earlier, my name is Dr. Megan LaFollette. I have a PhD in animal behavior and welfare, where I've always really focused on implementation. This is something I've always been really fascinated in, is why people do the things they do and how we can use that knowledge to help the animals in our lives. And I am executive director here at 3RC. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I really changed my own way of thinking about change, and how that's really influenced me. And I hope that you can kind of learn from my story. So when I was an undergrad, one of my first big things I was really focused on was getting people to use positive reinforcement with horses. So using treats, using rewards to change horse behavior instead of just pressure or using punishment, using crops, etc. And if you have ever been in the horse world, you know that the horse world relies a lot on pressure, a lot on punishment, etc. But I had, read these books, had a little experience, and was really convinced that this could be a really, really helpful. Oh, people say my slides are no longer showing. Let's do, oops, one more. Yeah, awesome. Okay, let's actually do one more change. How about now? Do people see the slides? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So yeah, my first really big change attempt was about this positive reinforcement with horses. And at first, being, of the positive reinforcement mindset, oh, you just reward what you like and you ignore what you don't. So if people were going to start using this, I just needed to praise them when they did. I think that sometimes that's a simplistic way to think about behavior change. But that didn't really work. People weren't really doing this at all. So you can't really reward something that's not happening. And there's a lot more complex situation going on here. So then I thought, okay, maybe I just need to provide more education. If I just tell people how great this is and tell them all the advantages, then they're going to use it. Again, that didn't really work. There were people that were like, no, I've been training horses. I've been working with horses for 20, 40 years. Why would I change? They didn't necessarily believe me. I didn't really have credibility as an undergraduate. So then again, I switched. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just, lead by example. I'll be a positive example. I'll train a horse. And again, this actually got me a little bit further and got me a little bit more notice, I think, than some of my other strategies. But again, even though some people would be like, wow, that seems like it's really working, they didn't really change their own behavior. So again, I'm a scientist. I thought, okay, well, maybe if I just conduct some research and I just publish something and address people's concerns, people would be like, well, I'm worried that if I feed my horse treats, then it's going to mug me for them, that they're just going to be really mouthy and bitey. And so I did this project, conducted research. It was a great research project. It was my first kind of introduction, but again, just doing that research didn't really conduct things. And by this time, I was pretty much through my undergraduate career. There wasn't a whole lot that I could do here. But again, it was a process. And so that really led me to, in graduate school, becoming fascinated by why animal welfare changes or 3Rs changes are just not really implemented. One thing that I certainly realized was that just better science communication is really critical. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the background behind human behavior change and things that I've learned that I think has improved the process of behavior change. Just going to pop in, check in on the chat. Okay. So that's kind of an introduction to me. Now I'd like to introduce you to my organization, the 3Rs Collaborative. So we are a nonprofit located in the United States by people who really understand the challenge of 3Rs related change. That even if it's something that we want to do, there's a lot of moving pieces. We work in really complex organizations, and it's not always easy, and it's certainly not usually quick. But we believe in how important they are, that it's really important that we do our best to improve the lives of research animals we currently use, make sure that we're minimizing their numbers while maximizing experimental data, really having robust experimental design, and that we replace them alternatives where possible. And we also believe in the power of collaboration. And so our mission is really to advance better science for both people and animals. And it's really intentional that we put science at the forefront of what we do, that really needs to drive what we are doing, and that the good science, that it's all really intertwined. Good science, good human welfare, and good animal welfare. Our collaboration across industry really makes us a powerful force to achieve this goal. This is pictures of just our board of directors and our leadership team, as well as their institutional logos. And I hope that you can appreciate that it does really span across different areas. So we've got large contract research organizations, we've got pharmaceutical companies, we've got biotech companies, we have consultants, we have academics, we have tech providers, we have government agencies, as well as other nonprofits. And this is just our board of directors and our leadership team. We actually have a group of over 200 volunteers at this point that are located across the industry that we can really learn from and grow from together. Our strategy really has three core goals. First is to promote the 3Rs broadly as a concept by creating a research landscape that is knowledgeable and supportive of the 3Rs. Second, to promote specific 3R strategies by advancing implementation of high-impact, evidence-based, and practical techniques. And third, promoting our organization by building collaborations and awareness of our resources, because people can't take advantage of our resources if they don't know that they exist. And our current 3Rs initiatives really spanned 7 to 8 key topics, depending on how you want to talk about it. Compassion fatigue resiliency, environmental health monitoring, translational digital biomarkers, artificial intelligence, 3R certificate course, refinement, which is split both into mouse handling and non-human primate work, and microphysiological systems. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of these today, and I'm certainly really happy to answer further questions as we go on. So again, that's a pretty brief introduction to our organization. I do want to make sure that we spend a lot of time today talking about change. Again, if you've been distracted, maybe you're trying to work on emails, work on something else at the same time, I really encourage you to not multitask during today's talk, to really focus in, to engage. That's going to be the best use of both your time and my time. So I kind of talked about this in the introduction, but a really common kind of model for science communication is this deficit model, that people are kind of just these empty glasses, and it is just, if they're not acting on something, if they're skeptical or if they're hostile, it's because they just don't understand. And they don't understand because we're just not communicating enough. So we just need more communication. And if we give them more information about whatever we want them to do, then they're going to change. This is really common. This is often, again, many of us start in this way. Oh, I just need to talk about this more. I need to tell them more and just give them more evidence, etc. But this is not really quite true. Even though we all like to, we're all think about ourselves, we're in the science field, we depend on data, that's what drives our behavior. It's not quite that simple. There's lots of different models of behavior. I really like this integrated model. Some of this used to be called the theory of planned behavior. And basically, if we have a target behavior, so let's say refined mouse handling, so trying to get people to pick up mice in tunnels instead of by the tail, that people are going to be more likely to do this behavior if they have a plan to do it. They don't just randomly start doing this or do it spontaneously. They made a plan to do that. And in turn, their intention or their plan is impacted by their attitude. So whether they think this is good or bad, their perceived norms, whether they feel pressure to do it, and their self-efficacy, their belief in their ability to do it. And along the way, there's environmental constraints. Certainly, we all deal with these. There's the actual skills of having to do them. And then there's a bunch of background variables, our demographics, socioeconomic variables, media, past behaviors, and context. And I'm going to go into kind of these three core aspects, attitudes, norms, and self-efficacy in the following slides. So attitudes are really your holistic beliefs about a behavior. And basically what these are your true beliefs, what you believe that if I do this thing, if I start picking up mice with tunnels instead of tails, then how are different things going to be affected? How is the science going to be impacted? How is animal welfare? How is my day-to-day job going to be impacted? Is it going to be better or is it worse? And at the same time, I have my outcome evaluation. So how much do I care about either of those factors? How important is animal welfare to me? How important is my everyday job to me, and just how the day goes, etc.? How important is the scientific outputs? And these kind of combine all together to think about, oh, is this good? Is it bad? Is it beneficial? Or is it worthless? Norms are your beliefs about any expectations or external pressure for you to do a behavior. And again, this is the thought that like, okay, if I change this practice, what are my colleagues going to think of me? What are the attending veterinarian, the government, my PIs, the researchers, etc.? Are they going to approve of this or are they going to disapprove of this? And again, kind of combined with this, how much do I care what those people think? Do I care what my colleagues think? Do I care what the government thinks? Hopefully compliance is important. The veterinarians, accreditation organizations, how important or not? And then that kind of combines to how much of this pressure, these expectations do I feel? And the third key component is self-efficacy. So your belief about your ability to actually execute that behavior. So it's easy for me to do it. I'm confident I can do it, and it actually being under my control at this point. Again, this is really also influenced by those environmental constraints. Sometimes this is called control beliefs or perceived behavioral control. And I want to note that cognitive dissonance is a really normal human thinking phenomenon that makes it really difficult to accept and integrate new knowledge. And it's this feeling where you feel like these two beliefs that you're being asked to hold are very contradictory. I really think that most people in the field believe that things like I'm a good person who makes the right decisions, I conduct high quality science, and I treat animals well. Most people, I think, believe that about themselves, as they should. They should be thinking all of these things. So then if we present them with a lot of evidence that's like, that wasn't actually the right decision, it led to bad quality science and it wasn't treating animal well, it's really hard to integrate those two things together, and it can make people want to rationalize, seek confirmation bias, deny evidence, and just makes them defensive if you present new information as, ooh, all these things that you thought about yourself or you thought about your research are wrong. You can really activate this cognitive dissonance. So that's something we really think about here at the collaborative, is trying to present things as positive, forward-looking change versus only focusing on the problem aspects and the bad things of the current practice, because sometimes that really makes people quite defensive. And this is a very normal thing for people to experience. So that's really the theory of behind everything. Now we're going to go through what that looks like in practice. So how do we actually influence these things? So to change people's attitudes, we really want to present information in a lot of different ways. People learn in different ways from different people. So for example, we might look at having different people present things. Sometimes people listen more to an expert that's not at their institution. Other times, people listen more to their peers at an institution. So if you can get people to present in those areas, it can be effective. Different modes. So some people really prefer, hearing things, seeing things, reading that peer-reviewed paper, looking at a poster, a web page. Different values. This is really, really important. So if we can present information about that 3 R's change, how is it going to impact the science? How is it going to impact animal welfare? What's it going to cost? How is it going to impact the bottom line? How's handling? How's your day job going to be impacted? Those are really important things to acknowledge and address. Also, not just these quantitative hard data, but sometimes storytelling and quotes. Again, we like to think, oh, we follow the data, but we're humans, and storytelling has been a part of our history from the beginning. It's really important. So framing things as a story can be really beneficial. And again, kind of avoiding this cognitive dissonance by thinking about values, by aspirations and ideals versus just arguments and facts. To change norms, we want to provide positive examples, benchmarking data, and see what we can do to just change the status quo, even a bit by bit. So, can we give examples of similar institutions? Can we give logos of other institutions that have changed? Can we present benchmarking data? Can we convince key influencers in the field, accreditation agencies, regulators, and standards? Those will all help with norms. And to increase self-efficacy, we're really about removing barriers and increasing ease of application. So making sure people have access to the training that they need, that there is appropriate staffing and time, as well as access to help when making changes, that maybe they have like an SOP to go, that it's just a little bit easier, that we're giving them encouragement and examples. And so a lot of that theory that we've talked about so far is really about this individual behavior aspect, but we also need to think about the institution as well. We certainly all work in really large, complex institutions that have a lot of complexity to them. There's been some really good work done on this, really kind of how to do this more concretely by Natasha Karp. She's got some great articles on sex bias. And then basically one thing I want people to think about is your culture can really support or hinder change. So culture is really how do we do things around, what are our values, what stories do we tell, etc. And how much does your institutional culture really support change efforts and the 3 R's and maybe vision, mission, strategy, and leadership? I'm not going to go in too far into kind of culture, but I'll say that, establishing a culture of care can be really beneficial. And we have a lot of resources on this in our upcoming 3R certification course, as well as a lot of our compassion, fatigue, resiliency stuff. We have a lot on culture of care and how to change that, how to think about that. There's also this really great article by Cotter in 2012 about 8 steps to create institutional change. First is trying to establish that sense of urgency. So why now? We're all really busy. Why is this so important to do at this point in time, either because of a crisis or an opportunity? Creating a guiding coalition, not trying to do everything yourself, that you want to work with other people, especially a group that is diverse, that represents different roles and different perspectives. Making sure that you have a really good vision and strategies about what you're going to look at in the future, what's feasible and what's focused. Communicating a lot in a lot of different ways with a lot of those aspects, different values, etc. Empowering action, making sure that you're removing any practical obstacles. Creating short-term wins. I can't emphasize this step enough. A lot of times people, they look at change and they think, oh my gosh, I have to get my whole institution to do this, and they kind of barrel ahead. Sometimes it's a lot easier to focus on, can I do this in one lab? Can I do this with one group of animals? To just start that small and then build on that, to really consolidate your gains and produce more change, and then anchor that into culture. Again, there's a really great article on this. If you're interested in more, I won't go into it too much more, but the citation is there. So now let's talk a little bit about resources and what the 3Rs Collaborative really has to help you. And in this section, we're going to kind of go over some features from the annual report and what we have done in 2023 and what we are looking ahead for in this year. So this is what we're in the business of doing, this 3Rs change thing, and we've got a lot of resources to help you. I want to note that our annual report is not out quite yet, but it should be released in the next couple weeks. There'll be a link at the end to sign up for our newsletter, and you'll be able to get it there. A few things, again, super quickly. So by the numbers, a little bit about us. So we were founded in 2017. We've got 7 core topics. We have over 200 volunteers, 63 resource pages. In 2023, we attended 9 conferences. We gave over 30 presentations. We also had over 30 institutional members, 45 initiative members, 42 individual members and donors. And over the years, we've helped to replace over 8,000 animals and refine quite a few more. So these are some kind of high-level numbers. Let's jump into the actual resources and what we've done. So we can really help you change attitudes and think about ways to change attitudes through intentionally framing information in multiple ways. So for example, for refined mouse handling, we've got this summary page that gives this high-level summary and talks about different reasons why refined mouse handling is good. So things like, well, this reduces anxiety, this animal welfare pass, this part, depressive behavior, stress. Those are all animal welfare focused. We also have things about increasing test reliability and improving physiological parameters. Those might be more that scientific reason. Increasing voluntary interaction with the handler. That's about how it's going to impact your day job. And improving breeding, which again might be more of, an operational concern. These are some reasons that you might want to change. And we kind of list that. We also list every publication with kind of exactly what it was found. So it's a little bit easier to access than having to read a whole publication, figure out what it was saying, and what kind of evidence might be. We also, totally different initiative, we're running a longitudinal intervention trial on compassion fatigue resiliency in our field. And this baseline data actually establishes a link between professional quality of life, job satisfaction, and retention. Because we often hear, okay, if I'm trying to get funding or resource support from upper management, they need to have something really concrete and there needs to be a return on investment. So if we can show this link between job satisfaction and retention, that might help convince that individual to make this change more than just, oh, this is a nice thing to do. I think it would be beneficial. So again, this is kind of a different way to frame this information. We also conduct systematic literature reviews. This is a graph about environmental health monitoring instead of using soil bedding sentinels. And we were able to conduct the systematic review and show that this is a more effective way of monitoring the health of your research rodents. That detection across different sampling methods is much higher, and that it doesn't matter what kind of pathogen type. So this is the sort of evidence that if someone's really doubting, okay, is the data really there? Is this going to be good for my colony? Am I going to be able to detect things I want to detect? This is the type of data it will. And I'll note that this publication is in press at PLOS One right now, so it should be out really soon. Also related to attitudes, we're able to do these benchmarking surveys, and we've done these benchmarking surveys to really help us understand, what are people thinking? What are these barriers that they see? And so this is, we were able to look at some data. People were concerned they weren't able to convince others. They were concerned about handling time for refined mouse handling, about not having tunnels, jumpy mice, and procedure compatibility. Those last two are actually big misconceptions. And so we've really focused on kind of addressing those head on and making sure people understand that this type of handling is actually really good for jumpy mice, really good, really compatible with procedures. And then we were able to dive in to maybe the issue of handling time. So we've done some survey work asking people, how have different factors changed? And this is only of institutions that have actually fully changed their practices. And we're asking them, how have bites to handlers changed? And people say, oh, it's decreased or it's the same. Injuries to mice, escapes, fighting mice. Again, those top four, we can now tell people, okay, this is anecdotal, but it is what people in the community say. All these things are going to go down or stay the same. In terms of the handling time, it's not necessarily a wholly straightforward method. 75%, most people say it stays the same, but some people do say it increases. And so that might be something that you want to look into at your institution, or know that in the short term that it might increase shortly and then go back down. So other things to help with attitudes, again, like I said, we summarize the evidence base on our websites with overview pages, publication pages, presentations, and systematic reviews. If any of the topics or initiatives you're interested in, go to our website. We have a lot more information on there. Today, I'm really just highlighting this high level, kind of how do we do this presentation of information and why. We also try to seek change and demonstrate positive norms through 3R's behavior change. So again, we've run these benchmarking surveys for a couple of our different initiatives over the years, and we've shown that, okay, we really need to do these things because in 2021, only 10% of institutions in our surveys were using only environmental health monitoring, and only 5% were using refined mouse handling. And this benchmarking data has been published if you want to go into it. But they can also show us that the field is changing. So we've done this survey again last year in 2023, and we saw that a lot more people are starting to use, for example, refined mouse handling in combination. So you can see in this graph, the percentage of people per year that are only using kind of this traditional handling has gone by like 2/3. A lot more people using combination, a few people using only refined, but we see it as a really good sign that people are in this transition phase. We see the same thing for health surveillance. So in this survey, we asked people, does your institution use only soil bedding sentinels? Do you use a combination or only environmental health monitoring? And we see a huge increase, like a 40% increase in institutions that are only using environmental health monitoring, and a little bit of decrease in people only using soil bedding sentinels, but fewer and fewer people using a combination. People really seem to be switching over. And the same thing, we see the same thing if we ask, okay, well, what percentage of your colony relies primarily on this? We do see kind of a statistically significant trend that more and more people are using this over time, which is really positive. We try to champion and learn from the early adopters in the field. And so on our website, so for example, for our refined mouse handling and our environmental health monitoring, we have these lists of institutions that have changed their practices. So you can go to maybe your leadership and say, well, the University of Washington is doing this, University of Florida is doing this, McGill's, Pfizer, et cetera. You can say who might be convincing. And again, you can go on our website, see this for both environmental health monitoring and refined mouse handling. We have discussions with regulators, with policymakers and accreditation agencies about these things. Often this is a much higher bar of evidence. This type of change takes time, but we are having those discussions when we can. For example, very different initiative, microphysiological systems, organ on a chip. We have this cross-platform project with the FDA Center for Drug Evaluation Research on drug-induced liver injury. We're trying to build confidence in using these platforms by creating like a universal protocol, having a simultaneous and coordinated cross-platform study, setting people up for qualification, and helping the regulatory agencies who are newer at these technologies, who aren't necessarily seeing this data. They need to have this data. They need to have really firsthand knowledge of this work so that they can develop those best practices and guidance from their perspective. And this project is actually done through a public-private partnership or consortium agreement between us and the FDA CDER, which was just established, I believe last year. That was really exciting that finally got through. So we have these really discussions with regulators kind of on behalf of the community. We also provide 3Rs training. So again, this is kind of socializing and helping people learn about the 3Rs. We have this certificate course upcoming. It's going to be really engaging. It's online right now. We're just doing the final edits. It's virtual, it's self-paced. It's supposed to take about 5 hours. We're partnering with Citi on this, and we're hoping to release it by ALAS of this year, so November 1st or so. This has been a long time coming if you've followed along with us, and we'll be releasing it via our newsletter. It's a partnership with Citi, so if your organization already uses the Citi program, it should be pretty easy for you to engage, and even if not, it'll be really easy for your institution to really launch this widespread. So really excited for that. Oops. So moving on, so that's kind of like norms, that's culture, that's, how do you influence kind of the broad factors. We also increase self-efficacy. So how do we make it just a little bit easier for you guys to make changes? Because ultimately you guys are on the ground, you guys are dealing with this every day. What can we do for you? So someone said they were interested in compassion, fatigue, resiliency resources. So we have a ton of resources for you. We think it's really important that institutions support these programs, that it's not just up to individuals. So we have, how do you set up an institutional compassion, fatigue, resiliency program? So we have these core components. We give you how to form a committee, what's a manager's role. We have posters you can print. We have webinars, passive learning, surveys. We've got a ton of resources totally for free on our website that you can check out. Like I said, we have a huge refined mouse handling hub. This is just a screenshot. So we have everything from an overview page, how-to, an e-learning course, mentorship program, workshop, addressing common concerns, etc., institutional change. So if this is a topic you're interested in, do check that out. A little bit of progress. So what did we really do in 2023? We did conduct that third year of our benchmarking survey and publish our first year. We launched a virtual certificate course with the NC3Rs. We had 4 hands-on workshops and 14 presentations. And we're in progress now, that this is this year, as we are writing a systematic literature review on this. If you're going to National ALAS here in the States, we will be doing a hands-on workshop, and you can contact our program manager. Also realize I didn't mention it, but if you do think of questions as we're going along, please do put them in the Q&A box if possible. I'm somewhat monitoring the chat, and so if you can't find it and you need to put it in the chat, that's totally fine. But if you do think of something in the Q&A, would love to address it in that section. Again, and I'm going over things kind of high level, of not really diving into these topics, really talking about high level change here, but always interested in diving more into that in the Q&A. So similarly, we've got a huge resource hub for environmental health monitoring, editable slide decks that you can download, SOPs, a cost analysis page. This is really, really critical. A lot of institutions actually find these strategies are less expensive than soil bedding sentinels, which really helps with that. Again, we have a mentorship program if you're interested in getting involved. And we know from our efforts that at least 8,000 rodents are being replaced. So that's something we're really, really proud of. So hopefully this makes it a little bit easier. And again, with these benchmarking surveys, we've been able to see change, and we've been able to target our resources. So back in 2021, there was this really big perception that you could only use this with certain types of caging and rack. So since then, we've done a lot of work on sentinel-free soiled bedding, which is where you basically do the same things as with sentinels, but you put media in instead of live mice. We've really seen that that barrier has decreased a lot. And many more people are saying there's not actually any barriers to using this. So that's really, really positive. I also want to show you, so we went through this theory of planned behavior, attitudes, norms, self-efficacy, that we're able to measure these things in our surveys and see them changing over time. So this is just for environmental health monitoring, actually. So what are people's attitudes? We do see the attitudes are getting better. What are their norms about it? How in self-efficacy? And then what's their intent? Like, do they think they're going to do this? And we see that some of these things are all kind of increasing numerically, and attitudes and intent are increasing statistically. So we're able to actually measure this over time, which is another really interesting thing from our perspective as a nonprofit. Switching gears to one of our more replacement-focused initiatives, microphysiological systems. If this is something that you're interested in, we really recommend working with commercial technology providers. And there's a lot of them, and they all are very specialized. So we do have this technology hub where you can sort by tissues, by diseases, by species, and find which tech providers are likely going to work for you. And we're going to be having a publication hub coming up soon. Different initiative. Haven't talked as much about this one today, but translational digital biomarkers. This is kind of about home cage monitoring and these technologies that automatically collect data from you. And we have a whole paper on how do you engage with these? What are value propositions? What are strategies? So why should we use this? We have this figure that you could download and use in-house and kind of walks you through all these different reasons. Again, think about those attitudes that you might want to do this. We also have a paper on a V3, a validation framework for digital measures, which is really important. And then we're going to be talking about kind of return on investment in a new paper. We're just starting that very early. But again, this kind of provides you with the resources of why you should do this and how to convince those other people. Similarly, we also have a technology hub for translational digital biomarkers. You can sort by environment, readout, species, and scalability. And then the last two initiatives that I want to highlight are non-human primate and artificial intelligence initiatives. We actually just launched those in 2023. The first one for non-human primate, this is really about these practical and actionable ways to improve non-human primate welfare through behavioral management. We have a team of subject matter experts who do these things in their institutions who are going to outline how can you really do this in the everyday? What are different features to change? And we should be submitting this publication by the end of the year. There's also going to be a talk at ALAS on this, among other things. And then we have another initiative on the use of artificial intelligence in preclinical safety and risk assessment. It's co-led by both Shepan Baran from Verisim as well as Wei Tong from FDA. We've got a lot of people involved. We've got a paper kind of reviewing kind of what this really is about, why this is so important now, and kind of next steps for the field. Generally, in a lot of our work at the collaborative, we seek to connect commercial technology providers, end users, and regulators in one space so that this communication can really flow and we can really understand different perspectives. So I do want to just highlight some of the things that we've done for this over the years. So we do have a memorandum of understanding with the IQ-MPS affiliate, and we've actually hosted, this is actually just now 10 workshops, and we have one upcoming this year. And this is where we have our technology providers give data-driven presentations on particular topics. These are the topics that we've addressed so far. We actually just did our one on cell sourcing last week, and we'll be having one on oncology. So if you or researchers that you work with deal with any of these organ systems or now these kind of disease-focused systems, I'd really encourage you to check out these webinars, these recordings. They're all on our website. They're super easy to access. And see, would there be a way for you to incorporate one of these systems in your research pipeline to ask maybe an earlier question or a very specific question that may be before you move into your animal work. We also, I just want to highlight some of our practical and time-saving resources. I did this a little bit in the Tech Hub. One thing I really want to highlight is our Refined Mouse Handling Certificate course. This was released in 2023. We developed it with NC3Rs, and it really goes into why and how to use this in a lot of good depth, but it's not overly complicated. It only takes, I think, about 30 minutes to complete, so I really encourage you to check it out. I'm going to just really briefly walk you through a little bit of this video of our website. We try to make things really easy to find. So we have things categorized by R, by species. You're able to go into it. We keep things really high level with photos, with bolding, etc., so that you can find the information you need. I'm not going to play the whole video, but you can see again, we've got information on reduction, translational digital biomarkers, rodent health monitoring, all really easy to find. You can definitely go on our website to find them out. And I want to kind of end this part of the presentation by saying that I do believe that we're making an impact. We know that over 12 institutions have changed practices in part of the work because we're doing. We're finding the lives of over 20,000 mice at least, and replacing at least 8,000 mice or more. So we're really proud of those numbers. And I want to also take the moment to thank all of our volunteers, all of the subject matter experts that have made these changes possible. You guys are the ones that we learn from, that we grow from, and we really leverage the work of the community to make this impact. And ultimately, again, my message today is that this change can be really challenging, but we're here to help. We really want to, help you think through these issues. If there's a targeted initiative, we have a ton of resources. And even if you're dealing with something different, you can take a look at the types of resources and the types of presentations and change efforts we have for our specific initiatives and use them as case studies for your particular topic at hand. If you like what you saw today and you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, I really encourage you to subscribe. This is how you get information and resources from us straight to your inbox. We try to keep our newsletter a little bit more casual, a little bit more fun than just a traditional newsletter where it's just like, here's the information and here's a long to-do list. We try to put it out in kind of bite-sized chunks and make it a little bit casual because we know that your inboxes are very full of very businessy emails every day. And I'll put this link in the chat later as well. I also want to say a huge thank you to our current members. This is both our institutional members as well as our initiative members, and we really could not do the work that we do without their support. Right now, we're primarily funded by our members. We do not get very many grants at all from the federal government. We do not get widespread support from the federal government here in the United States or Europe. And so it's our members that make this work possible. And so really big thank you to them. They're really committed to the 3 Rs and what we do. And then that's my invitation to all of you to help join us in kind of leading this change. We depend on you guys on the ground to do this work. So doing things like championing the 3 Rs in everything that you do, encouraging your institution to become a member of our organization, as well as becoming an individual donor. And I want to highlight some things that are really beneficial for our members in case your institution is not already a member and is thinking about joining. So you'll join this really engaged network of leaders that are really passionate about developing and sharing impactful 3 Rs solutions. Your institution can demonstrate that you're a leader in the 3 Rs in a very actionable way with really year-round visibility and recognition. You can influence key decision makers in the space and really elevate your impact by joining this collective voice. And if you're interested in becoming a member, you can learn more on our website. Again, I'll paste this in the chat for people. And then my last slide, before I kind of open it up for questions and maybe some discussion in the chat, is to really encourage you to visit our website to learn more and email me with any questions. I'm really happy to do my best to help or connect you with other people who can. So yeah, that is all the content. I want to make sure that we have enough time for Q&A. While I'm checking the Q&A, so put your questions in there. Also, if you feel so inspired, would love to hear about, have any of our resources helped you? And if there's any key topics that you think that we should focus on in the future or should be doing more on. Awesome. I'm going to open up the Q&A now. Okay, so I do have one question. Will there be a cost for the upcoming 3 R certificate course? And yes, there will be a cost for this to allow, and that's really important to support the kind of interactive program that we're using and to allow institutions to track participants and make sure that participants are actually completing the quizzes, etc., at your institution. So our vision for this is, a lot of institutions, you already have required training for anybody who uses a research animal. They have to show that they understand the regulation, that they have the proper animal care skills. And our vision, what we would love to see is for institutions to also require this 3R certificate course to show that their individuals actually understand the 3Rs, etc. So, okay, yeah, going back to the chat. Yeah, any questions, any comments? Would love to hear from people. Yeah, feel free to pop in the chat with Q&A, etc. Or ideas. How have we helped you? What topics should we focus on next? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and paste a few links in the chat just to make sure that it's really easy for people to access them. So this is my email. I just put it in the chat for all of y'all. I will also, okay, so I hear that both the rat tickling and mouse handling, refined mouse handling courses have been a big asset for people. Really great to hear that. Yeah, and so I didn't mention it, but actually my graduate work was really focused on rat tickling. So there's a certificate course on that as well. Yeah, using the 3Rs resources to transition from environmental monitoring to refined mouse handling. Thank you so much. Yeah, the certificate trainings are really good. We're really glad that many people are using those. I do see a question. What areas are you considering for refining zebrafish husbandry? So we have a resource page on zebrafish refinement on our website. It goes through a number of different strategies. Some that we've seen some beneficial research on is images of gravel on the bottom of tank, potentially floating plants, things like skin swabbing or scale swabbing for genotype testing instead of fin clipping. There's a number of different things. We don't have a targeted initiative on this right now, but there is, at least in the States, there's the Zebrafish Husbandry Association that's doing a lot of great work on zebrafish. The RSPCA in the UK also has a lot of great work on zebrafish. We really try not to duplicate any efforts, so I'd refer you to those organizations. And zebrafish is certainly a topic that we've considered expanding more on in the future, as obviously they're a very up-and-coming research model. Awesome. So then I see, do you have any suggestions or resources for training staff on animal handling, such as mice, but that don't involve the use of animals? I'm assuming this question is about just like training. So again, we have our certificate course on refined mouse handling. I will go ahead and try to paste that in the chat. That obviously does not involve any research animals. And we're also a really big advocate of using like physical training models in training. So these can be really simplistic, whether just like a balloon that you're practicing moving the hand movements, to very high fidelity training module or training replacements for animals. Again, actually NORCOPA has a really good database of this, and we'll be highlighting this in the 3R certificate course as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this certificate course as well for refined mouse handling. This is the page on our website that you can check out. And this is, the second link is for our newsletter. I may see a question, housing primates and dogs. There are many years of experience and evidence of the benefits for animal welfare and staff. It's been a game changer for those implementing better housing standards, but not always implemented in the United States. Would that be a topic for the 3Rs Collaborative? Yeah, so certainly thank you for bringing that up as a potential topic. It's certainly something that we've thought about, but we want to focus on what is going to make the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time and what can we really change. So at least with the non-human primates, one of our newest paper is really focused on how do you make these changes that do really make a difference in behavioral management, working within the caging systems you already have. And people have done some really creative things to modify, to kind of retrofit housing because of how expensive it is to change them. It's certainly something we're interested in addressing, but we also, one of the reasons that we've really focused on refined mouse handling is because we look at things that are really going to impact a very large number of animals in a really big way. And obviously there are so many more mice used in research than non-human primates and dogs. So that's been like a big push for us. But as that wraps up, as more and more people will have more time available to do other topics, which could include the housing as well. See people excited for the 3R certificate course. That's great. Okay. Yeah, stuffed animals. So someone commented stuffed animals as an idea for a training replacement as well. Mice with balloons and with sand. I see a question. Have you considered exploring reporting guidelines, Arrive, Consort, etc., as a way to help with study design to eventually impact reduction? Animal to human translation fails many times due to part and poor study design. So certainly we are a big proponent of these reporting guidelines. In our 3R certificate course, we highlight both the Prepare and Arrive guidelines. That being said, this isn't a core focus, partially because NC3Rs in the UK, they're the ones that actually develop the Arrive guidelines. They do a ton of work on that. And so again, we really try not to duplicate efforts of other 3Rs organizations. And again, we're a huge proponent on them. We want to do more on reduction and experimental design in the future. We think that our 3R certification course could really help move the needle on this. We're also currently part of a grant application focused on like study design and training. All of this is really, really important. Also with reduction, although we don't have a dedicated initiative on this quite yet, it's highlighted in our certificate course and highlighted at our conferences. We host a 3R sharing conference, which is a day where we go through all 3Rs and different topics. And that we highlight reducing breeding colony numbers and the number of animals bred, kind of animal colony management. This is really important for reduction, and there's a lot of work, kind of, we think, potentially low-hanging fruit here. So again, we're a little bit limited on bandwidth right now. Many of you may not know this, but we actually only have 2 full-time employees here at the 3Rs Collaborative, myself and my program manager, Lauren Young. So we're able to do a lot with pretty limited bandwidth. The more members that join, the more funding that we're able to get, the more that we're going to be able to expand to some of these really exciting and important initiatives. So yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, at this point, we are right at the hour. If anybody's been on meetings with me, you know I love ending meetings on time or early. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I really want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. And really just say, yeah, please do reach out to me, email me if you do have any other questions. Did just see this comment come through to highlight the NC3Rs also has their EDA, their Experimental Design Assistant. That is a really great tool for reduction. They said also Arrive Study Plan. We love the NC3Rs. We have a really great partnership with them. So really always try to highlight their work when we can. But again, Thank you for everyone for attending. Thank you for all that you do in the field to support the 3Rs. It's really you that makes those things happen. So happy that you all were here and are interested in the topic. Hope you have a great rest of your days. And I'll be sending out the recording for this in the next couple weeks. Appreciate that. Appreciate you, and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.